he wants to be able to get all the governors to open the country. So what he needs to do is pick a fight with the governors. It's kind of a duck season, rabbit season thing. He's trying to get them into that situation. So then he can say, we're opening the country, we're opening the country, we're opening the country. And then once they get into that pattern, he can say, we're closing the country, we're keeping it closed. And they can go, no, we're opening it. Or it's like he did with Jeb Bush, where he wanted Jeb Bush to apologize. And he told him, you won't apologize because you're a coward or whatever. So therefore, now your choice is to either apologize or to be a coward. So it's like he's trying to give them the choice, or you can either keep your state closed or you can be a coward or whatever. But I think there's actually a 4D chess explanation to this, maybe even 5 or 6D. Trump, as we all know, is a secret ANCAP, and he's trying to break up the United States. He's trying to play the long game to position us into a situation where the United States can bring back secession, and we can go into 20 or 50 or 60 or 100 different independent states again. And he knows that it's a very delicate, this is why it's like 6D chess. It's a very intricate game he's playing here. So he just moved Cuomo, another piece of the chess on the chessboard just moved right into place.
Donald Trump looked into like 14,605 futures, and how many futures has America shattered to pieces? 1, and he's just threading that needle.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he's ramping up the debt and the inflation right now, because he knows all this is going to go away in like 6 months. So he's trying to get the most bang for his buck.
I know this is kind of media news, but we're kind of playing fast and loose. Donald Trump also...
It's quarantine. There are no rules.
Yeah, there's no rules.
It's quarantine law.
He spent part of the briefing. CNN got super mad. I'll see if I can find their exact words, but they accuse him of turning a White House press briefing into, it's like an angry and unhinged President Trump turns White House briefing into a propaganda session, because what he did was...
they had like 8 chyrons. That each one was crazier than the previous.
What did you call them?
The chyron. That lower third that has the big headline.
Yes, because he had run a bunch of clips. I was saying, a lot of people are mad at me because I said it was just a flu. But here's a clip of like every major news organization also saying it was just a flu. And then here's
Tony Fauci saying it.
Yes, and Fauci saying it.
Everyone is considered an authority now.
Yes. And here is me saying that maybe we should do a travel restriction, and then everybody calling me a racist for calling for a travel restriction. And then he came back on, after the clip, he just came right back on stage and said, I have hours of those. I just wanted to show, just a few minutes of them. And then he just wanted to keep going with the press conference.
It was so bizarre. I loved it.
And CNN literally cut the feed.
Wow.
They just did not want to hear it.
But yeah, that's part of their narrative, is that Trump doesn't believe in science. So therefore he said this wasn't anything when everyone knew it was something. And yeah, it is funny how the narrative changes so fast, and they just don't have any memory of what they said a week ago. Because Trump was the first one to be like, we need to shut down China, flights. And they were like, wow, he's so racist. Can you believe he wants to shut down China flights? This is ridiculous. And then a week later, they were saying this is so serious, and he's not taking it seriously. Now, I'm not crediting Trump for taking it seriously. I think it would have been better if he did ignore science and just pretended this wasn't real. But the point is, it's like by their own logic, it makes no sense for them to be so upset.
Did we talk last episode about how they were saying no masks and now they're saying masks?
We did, yes.
Okay. Since the last episode, it has now been, I think a few countries have officially rolled out like hydroxychloroquine as a treatment for the coronavirus. So that was yet another thing Trump ended up being vindicated on. We don't really need to talk about that.
Can you imagine if it turns out like that becomes to the point where it's just accepted that if you take hydroxychloroquine, it's basically a cure and you're fine. Could you imagine how he's gonna love that?
Yep.
He's gonna say, "Hey, remember how everyone told you were doomed, and then I basically invented a cure that they all said I was stupid for promoting? They said it was snake oil. You're welcome for saving your life."
New York Times ran an article. I think it was New York Times saying, as we know, every newspaper that I don't like is just the New York Times, ran an article suggesting that Donald Trump had like a financial stake in the production of hydroxychloroquine, a drug which has no patent and is produced by 12 different companies. And even Snopes had to point out, they said it was mostly false.
Which means it was flagrantly false.
Yeah, because Donald Trump has a stake in everything because he invests in index funds and such. And so, in theory, yes, Donald Trump makes. They said we estimate Donald Trump has about $3,000 total invested in firms that produce hydroxychloroquine. So if it becomes a national rollout treatment, we can expect that Donald Trump might make about, $50 maybe.
Art of the deal. Art of the deal, baby. All those $50, all those, you become a billionaire, Marcel. $50 at a time.
It's the little thing. Exactly. $50 at a time. Yeah. If hydroxychloroquine ends up being the cure to coronavirus, Donald Trump might be able to feed most of his family for one night.
At McDonald's.
Yeah. Anything.
Yeah, but that's one less meal he has to pay for.
Yeah, it's one less meal he has to pay for. Especially because of how frugal he is getting all those Burger Kings and McDonald's and McWendy's stuff for all those college athletes. Which, he's not going to get to do it again this year. Oh, no. That's what we're really missing out on.
No more cheese wheel.
Yeah. Speaking of frugality when it comes to government, so, Dan, you said that you've gotten your Trump bucks?
I have gotten my Trump bucks.
Now, how do you feel about the fact that to get that $1,200 payout, you actually ended up paying $6,000?
I feel great.
So, of course, as predicted during the last episode, the bill that ended up actually finally being passed was, how did you describe it? You said a legion of lobbyists descended upon Washington. Yeah. So Thomas Massie, so Donald Trump said that Thomas Massie was a third-rate grandstander, and Thomas Massie insisted that he was second-rate at least, because he wanted people to actually be on record voting for the bill, which people were mad at him. It was like, Thomas Massie, if you require us to vote on the bill, that means we all need to actually show up to Congress. Now, that was a little less egregiously ridiculous because they said, and it's a quarantine, even though they wouldn't want to be on the record voting for it no matter what. And Thomas Massie was saying there's a big cover-up in there. I don't think there was a cover-up of anything. I think libertarians have a somewhat limited vocabulary to describe these kinds of things. We all know what happened. We all saw what was... There's a cover-up of who voted for it, but it was near unanimous. I think it was unanimous except for him. So, there were bailouts for...
No, they still said it was unanimous. When Trump signed it, he explicitly said it was unanimous.
Okay.
Because they didn't end up voting.
Oh, okay.
So it was considered to be unanimous because they passed the biggest spending bill in history without voting on it.
Yeah, $2 trillion.
Because to do so would have put their lives at risk, and we all know we can't do that.
Yeah. Just like Rashida wanted, there was no coin to pay for it. It's going to be paid with good old-fashioned debt, which means that whole scenario we thought of before isn't going to happen, unfortunately.
And it also means that I didn't pay $6,000 to get my $1,200, because when you include the Federal Reserve, I'm paying more like $80,000.
Oh, right, the money multiplier. That's right.
Yeah.
Nobody comments on this and explain to me that's not how the money multiplier works. I don't want to hear it.
Never correct our use of jargon.
Yeah, if I ever list out a concept in a wrong way, assume that I was being wrong on purpose.
Yeah,
it's only when I make a philosophical point that you can say that I'm wrong, and then you're just wrong.
Yeah, anything we say that seems wrong is it's because we obviously know the right answer. We're just joking. We have to keep the show.
Either if I say something that sounds wrong, either I'm actually right and you're wrong, or I'm joking and I know. It's a pretty great way to live your life.
That sounds like something Trump would say. If you ever hear me say something that sounds wrong, either you're wrong or I was joking. A very stable genius.
Yeah, Thomas Massie has therefore, the best set of enemies that one can ever find. All of Congress, basically the entire media establishment was just swarming. John Kerry, I think John Kerry called Thomas Massie an asshole or something like that.
He did. Trump called him a grandstander, and then on Twitter, John Kerry retweeted that tweet from Trump to agree with him and to say he tested positive for being an asshole, and then Massie replied to that and said, "At least he has not shown symptoms since birth, unlike Kerry." Not a great reply.
Now that means also that Thomas Massie is now supposedly getting primaried.
It really does go to show you the level of, what is called discourse in the national conversation, where they'll all say, Trump is coarsened the language and he's so horrible and all this. And, they're all floating above it like they're all these statesmen. And then Thomas Massie goes, hey, do you think we should actually have a vote on the largest spending bill in history? And the former Secretary of State goes on Twitter and say, what is this guy, some kind of an asshole? And everybody goes, yeah.
So Thomas Massie is being primaried, and I'm gonna offer, hopefully I'll offer no comments. I'm just going to read this out loud. The Republican Jewish Coalition PAC has announced rare primary support for Todd McMurtry in his race to defeat Thomas Massie. Washington, D.C., March 27th, 2020. Today, the Republican Jewish Coalition PAC announced that it will endorse and support Republican Todd McMurtry in his race to defeat Thomas Massie, the only anti-Israel member of the House GOP caucus. RJC Executive Director Matt Brooks released the following statement, quote, in January, we announced that we would not support Congressman Thomas Massie after he voted against the Never Again Education Act that expanded the U.S. Holocaust Museum's education program. Today, after Representative Massie recklessly decided to hold up the stimulus bill designed to help Americans who are struggling because of the coronavirus, the RJC PAC has decided to help endorse and fundraise for his GOP primary opponent, Todd McMurtry, and the RJC will be activating its nationwide team of volunteers to contact voters in the 4th Congressional District of Kentucky to explain why it is important to support McMurtry. Representative Massie does not deserve another term in office. In addition to voting against Holocaust education, Massie has also cast the only GOP no vote on a resolution the House passed last year condemning the anti-Israel boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, cast the only no vote against the measure to make Israel a strategic partner of the United States, voted present on the terrible Obama-Iran nuclear deal, the only Republican in either chamber of Congress not to oppose the deal.
That was like calling it the failing New York Times.
Right. Cast the only no vote on renewing sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program, voted against emergency aid to Israel to shore up the Iron Dome program during a period when Israel was under intense rocket fire from Hamas-ruled Gaza, and questioned President Trump's decision. Notice, questioned President Trump's decision to kill terrorist mastermind Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Luckily, we have a terrific candidate in Todd McMurtry. Unlike Massie, McMurtry supports Israel, is committed to the president's maximum pressure campaign against Iran, wants to help President Trump strengthen our military and give our troops the pay raises they deserve, and strongly opposes the anti-Semitic BDS movement. We look forward to welcoming Mr. McMurtry to Washington in January. This is from Republican Jewish Coalition Executive Director Matt Brooks. I have no comments on that.
I still don't understand that whole BDS thing and why it's anti-Semitic to enjoy a little rough sex. You can't even put on a rubber suit now without someone saying you're anti-Semitic. There's nothing you can do anymore these days. It's become so PC. What? There's nothing to be said.
Yeah. Moving on from that little dispatch. So the coronavirus has caused some. This is kind of libertarian news, I suppose. The coronavirus has led to some supply chain disruptions. We all know about the toilet paper run, but there have been clips coming out of people, of farms dumping like hundreds of gallons of milk down the drain because they couldn't be sold. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this is because of, capitalism. It's so wasteful. I don't know where to begin. Let's start with the first thing. The mass destruction of agricultural products began as a program in this country under the New Deal. It was explicitly part of the New Deal. If you want to know more about this, if you were in I guess I read this in high school, just read Grapes of Wrath. There's a chapter where John Steinbeck writes about, how the federal marshals were dumping, apples and stuff down the river and holding families at gunpoint while they were starving to stop them from getting the food. So we should automatically be suspect if we see, during any kind of demand shock, the same thing happening. It's probably based on a New Deal incentive.
Supply shock, not demand shock.
For the milk?
Well, no, I guess, sorry. I thought you talked about the larger economy. No, you're right. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, for milk, it's a demand shock.
Yeah.
So just in case, so we should automatically suspect that. Secondly, though, the reason why that milk is not being sold is for two main reasons. One, selling unpasteurized milk is illegal, right? That's raw milk being dumped. And the reason the raw milk is being dumped is because it can only be stored for